this week. First one, UUCSJS member Mike Anisian has traveled all over the continental United States, exploring and photographing its natural wonders. He is presenting many of his favorite photographs on Saturday, March 8th. Tickets are $25, with all proceeds benefiting UUCSJS. You can purchase them at the sign-up table at the back of the sanctuary. Secondly, this Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, is our monthly Greenlight Coffee House open mic night. All family-friendly performers are welcome, and we invite everyone to join us for a wonderful and entertaining evening. If you'd like to perform, please let Katie Cardwell know. Next Sunday, February 16th, is our annual Super Bowl soup sale. Don't forget to stop by the table in the foyer for your containers to fill. And remember to bring them back next Sunday for the soup sale. Make sure you bring some cash to buy soup next week, too. I don't believe credit cards will be accepted.
Checkers.
They will? Oh, checks, yes, checks or cash. Thank you. Join us next Sunday for You Can Make a Difference. The service will be presented by Guy Forcone, a foster parent recruiter for the New Jersey Division of Child Protection. Sounds like it'll be a good one. Welcome to worship. So, Mike?
You unmuted?
Here we go. At the Reverend Charlie's suggestion, Cynthia and I will play for a prelude this immortal tune from the 1932 Marx Brothers movie Horse Feathers. A song about the three most important words in the English language. 3 words that will get you out of trouble. And very occasionally into trouble. Nice one.
Why can't we get together like others do?
the new steps. That always used to be the scary thing. Will he survive or not? Thank you very much for those opening words, for the opening music. So Robert Walsh wrote an homage to Reverend James Curtis, one of the ministers who preceded me at the Unitarian Church of Norfolk, Virginia. It begins, I knew a man who had printed on his stationery a proverb, nothing is settled, everything matters. It established a certain ambiance for reading his letters, as if to say, what you're about to read should be taken seriously, but it's not final. I remember him and his proverbs sometimes, especially when it seems impossible to change the world or myself in any significant way. Times like the beginning of New Year's. The meaning of life is not contained within one act or one day or 1 year. As long as you are alive, the story of your life is still being told, and meaning is still open. As long as there is life in the world, the story of the world is still being told. What is done, but nothing is settled. And if nothing is settled, then everything matters. Every choice, every act in the new year matters. Every word, every deed is making meaning for your life and telling the story of the world. Everything matters in the year to come. And more importantly, everything matters today. And now it's time for some dancing. Last week, I believe some of you did a conga line, and Jessica talked about the importance of ritual in our service. Am I right? How many were in the conga line? Oh, very good. I looked like a bunch. I saw it on YouTube. So I want to offer a ritual dance, and we need about a dozen dancers up front. But there's some important restrictions. I know Nick is good. The rule is that if you don't have good mobility or a good sense of balance, don't come up. If you've had shoulder surgery, do not come up. Or arthritis restrictions, stay in the audience and enjoy it. If you have clothing that might shift suddenly, Super Bowl this weekend, you get the idea. You can be tall or short. And it's best to be near folks with similar height. So we gotta take a couple more, but basically that's it. Okay. Well, you're gonna reach everybody now. And I'm gonna go down this easy. So the first thing we do is we get a rhythm of the and right hand over left. And she's gonna drape it on your right knee. Okay?
Right hand over left.
And the chalice lady words are going to be this way.
Our cellist leader today is Karen York.
While Karen leads us.
And tell me when we're all set, we'll start the chalice words.
Start by holding that. You got us all. Actually, next time. Okay.
Okay, please join us in reading the chalice lighting words in your order of service.
And we do it in 3 parts. So, first thing we say is,
let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful.
now we raise our right arm and turn 90 degrees, face there.
Let us open our minds to learn what is true.
Other quarter turn.
Let us open our hearts to love one another.
That's it.
The importance of ritual, yes. Please rise now, if you're not already risen, in body or spirit, and sing our gathering hymn number 360. Here we have gathered.
The story I have for you this morning is called Mermaids, and it's written by Robert Fulgham, and he's a UU minister. He wrote a book you might be familiar with called All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And this story is one of the gems from that book. Giants, wizards, and dwarves was the game to play. Being left in charge of about 80 children, 7 to 10 years old, while their parents were off doing parenting things, I mustered my troops in the church social hall and explained the game. It's a large-scale version of rock, paper, scissors, and it involves some intellectual decision-making, but the real purpose of the game is to make a lot of noise and run around chasing people while nobody knows what side you're on and who won. Organizing a room full of wired-up grade schoolers into 2 teams, and explaining the rudiments of the game, achieving a consensus on group identity, all of that is no mean accomplishment. But we did it with the right goodwill, and we're ready to go. The excitement of the chase had reached critical mass. I yelled out, "You have to decide now, are you a giant, a wizard, or a dwarf?" While the groups huddled in frenzied whispered consultation, a tug came at my pant leg. A small child stands there looking up and asks in a small, concerned voice, "Where do the mermaids stand?" Where do the mermaids stand? A long pause, a very long pause. "Where do the mermaids stand?" I said. mermaid? There are no such things as mermaids. Oh, yes, because I am one. She did not relate to being a giant, a wizard, or a dwarf. She knew her category, mermaid, and was not about to leave the game and go over and stand against the wall where a loser would stand. She intended to participate whether mermaids fit into the scheme of things without giving up dignity or identity. She took it for granted that there was a place for mermaids and that I would know just where. Well, where do the mermaids stand? All the mermaids, all those who are different, who don't fit the norm, and who do not accept the available boxes and pigeonholes. Answer that question, and you can build a school, a nation, or a world on it. What was my answer at that moment? Every once in a while, I say the right thing. The mermaid stands right here by the king of the sea, says I. Yes, right by the king of fools, I thought to myself. So we stood there hand in hand, reviewing the troops of wizards and giants and dwarves as they rolled by in wild disarray. It's not true, by the way, that mermaids do not exist. I know at least one personally. I held her hand. We invite all the young people or those young at heart who would like to join us now in the Religious Education Learning Lab. We'll meet just outside the foyer doors and spend the rest of this hour talking, creating, playing, and growing in our faith together. We'll light the children's RE lantern. We light this lantern for our children and youth and for us, celebrating the flame of faith lighted in each of us, honoring the light each of us brings into the world, rejoicing in the community that we create together.
A book is provided in a foyer in which you are invited to write whatever joys and sorrows you have as you enter. I will now read what you have shared. Exactly one thing, 2 words, 7 letters. Go Birds! Let us share a quiet time together to reflect upon our week. During the musical interlude, you may come forward and place a pebble in the water to acknowledge a personal joy or sorrow.
In the spirit of love we gather, fully aware that our lives have shadows of battles, sorrows and regret, pain and anger, compulsions and doubt. May we grow to see our imperfections and shortcomings in the light of forgiveness. May we gather the strength to make right and to heal with a smile, a kindness, a new vision, and 3 little words, I love you. Where there is fracture, may we work for healing. Where there is sorrow, may we provide comfort. Where there is fear, may we work together to reassure and always be an instrument of peace. In this week of Valentine's Day, may we find the love in our imperfections and our imperfect relationships. For love is the answer. Amen.
Amen. Please rise in body and/or spirit and sing number 388, Dona Nobis Pascha. Every week we take up an offering during our service. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. We know that it is through pledges that we build our budget and fund our yearly programs of ministries of worship and religious education, pay our staff and professional religious leaders, and finance the comfort and beauty of our building. If this is your first time visiting us today, feel free to let the basket pass, as your presence is gifted. For those who are participating online, please visit uucsjs.org and click on the yellow donate button for ways to donate. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. The morning offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone.
For those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, who love in doorways, coming and going in the hours between dawns, looking inward and outward at once before and after, seeking a now that can breed futures like bread in our children's mouths, so their dreams will not reflect the death of ours.
For those of us who are imprinted with fear, like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk.
For by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hope to silence us.
For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain.
When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning.
When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion.
When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again.
When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish.
When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return.
And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid.
So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. Thus endeth our reading. This says Rev on it. In case I didn't know which one it was. Marge Piercy, in her poem The Seven of Pentacles, speaks of how to change the world, or some piece of it. She compares life to a squash or pumpkin plant, which grows wide over the garden, creating new nodes, setting down roots everywhere. It's a long, slow process, and most of the work is not obvious to the observer. This being Black History Month, you might hear some people say, that was the crucial moment. That was the crucial person. That was the crucial speech. But we can also see the civil rights struggle as the growth of a vining plant with many nodes, many places that bore fruit, working together. To see a social movement as a process, as a tangle of events, matches Unitarian Universalist minister Jim Curtis's proverb, nothing is settled, everything matters. Back in 1998, Lambda Legal Defense Fund and Education Fund, along with the Human Rights Campaign, the ACLU, and other LGBT rights organizations, declared February 12th to be Freedom to Marry Day. That's 2 days before Valentine's Day. Of course, in 1998, marriage equality was just an idea, really just a dream of an idea. So rather than talk about the Super Bowl, I wanted to talk about a hard subject close to my heart. LGBTQ access to the sacrament and legal state of marriage. And I warn you, in talking about the past, we may be reminded of violence and offensive laws and words. I'm going to use some which are now taboo, but they too are part of the story. I'm going to recount how we in this congregation celebrated some of the first New Jersey marriages of gay and lesbian couples in 2013. Equal marriage in New Jersey was one step in a long set of processes, the result of reforms and new connections being made over the decades. I'm going to focus on gay men's rights in New Jersey. These are intertwined with lesbian and trans rights, but there are subtle differences. It's been a long and tangled process. It's easiest if I speak from my own point of view. The story begins in 1933 with America's first attempt at morality enforcement, called Prohibition, being repealed. Taverns were again allowed to serve alcohol, but the new amendment was not a complete repeal. Bars had to follow new morality restrictions. The New Jersey Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control wrote morality rules for taverns and bars, including Rule 4 and Rule 5. Rule 4 provided that no licensee shall serve any known criminals, gangsters, racketeers, pickpockets, swindlers, confidence men, prostitutes, female female impersonators, or other persons of ill repute. It's too many syllables. And Rule 5 said that no licensee shall allow any disturbances, brawls, or unnecessary noises, lewdness, and immoral activities, and foul, filthy, indecent, or obscene language or conduct, or allow businesses to be conducted in such a manner as to become a nuisance. In 1955, the ABC's director said that since exposure to homosexuals might be harmful to some members of the public, the congregating of homosexuals must be prohibited as a threat to safety and morals of the public. Similar New York rules allow the raiding of places like the Stonewall Inn in New York City. Our story predates the 1969 Stonewall riots by 2 years. In 1967, the ABC closed several bars, including one called 111 Wines and Liquors near New Brunswick, New Jersey. The bars sued, and their combined case was argued before the New Jersey court. This is from the court's decision. The ABC said that they shut them down because 111 had permitted apparent homosexuals to congregate there. Investigators had visited the premises on several occasions and had observed the patron behavior. They were conversing, and some of them in a lisping tone of voice. And during certain parts of their conversations, they used limp wrist movements to each other. One man would stick out his tongue at another, and they would laugh and they would giggle. They were very, very chummy and close. When they drank their drinks, they extended their pinkies in a very dainty manner. They took short sips from their straws, and it took them quite long to finish their drink. They looked into each other's eyes when they conversed. They spoke in low tones like an effeminate man. When walking, getting up from the stools, they would politely excuse each other, hold onto their arm and swish and sway down to the other end of the bar, and then come back. Their actions, mannerisms, and demeanor appeared to me to be males impersonating females. They appeared to be homosexuals commonly known as queers, fags, fruits, and other names. This is from the transcript. The Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control said this was enough for a tavern to lose its liquor license. But in 1967, the New Jersey Supreme Court nullified the closure decision. They wrote that the division can deal effectively with overtly indecent conduct through lesser regulations which do not impair the rights of well-behaved apparent homosexuals to patronize and meet in licensed premises. 2 years before Stonewall, bars for well-behaved apparent homosexuals were legally protected in New Jersey. Now, because only Rule 4 was used, the court did not rule if being a female impersonator, got it right that time, made someone a person of ill repute. Were trans men still excluded? I don't know. Meanwhile, in New Orleans, odd that came up today. Meanwhile, in New Orleans, being gay was grim indeed. Clubs were regularly raided by police, and the next day the newspapers published all the names of those who had been scooped up in the raids. New Orleans changed in 1969. A documentary called The Sons of Tennessee Williams tells how 4 new Mardi Gras crews staged a flamboyant costume revolution. So social clubs called crews traditionally held formal balls during the Mardi Gras season, and oftentimes they also had parades. And the gay crews also had balls. The gay crews featured performers in the most incredible drag outfits. Not only that, the crew members invited society matrons to come and see the show. Police could not shut down a public event when it was also the hottest ticket in town. No riots in New Orleans. The raids ceased. Feathers and furs and drag performance made gay bars normal. The next phase in our story is a long one, and a sad one, and a painful one. Initially, when medical centers encountered young men suffering from the effects of HIV virus, many nurses and doctors simply refused to care for them. A book published in 1994 called My Own Country follows an infectious disease doctor named Abraham Verghese as he treats men dying from AIDS in rural Tennessee. Verghese tells of long-term committed gay couples struggling as one faded away. The house they lived in was seized by gay-hating family members when one partner died. Faraway relatives of a dying man dictated the medical care decisions because they were blood and his partner was nothing. Verghese told of fighting with local pharmacists who refused to provide medicines to gay men on moral grounds. By the final chapter, 1989, thank goodness, hospitals were changing, and the stigma of AIDS had faded, and AZT therapy became available. The 1990s were an era of the durable power of attorney, will writing, and advanced care directives, as couples with no intrinsic legal rights sought to formalize their relationships. In 1998, Matthew Shepard, a college student who was gay, was beaten, tortured, and left to die. As someone who had been called faggot in junior high, this story was a shock. In 2004, New Jersey implemented domestic partnerships, advertised as providing limited health care, inheritance, property rights, and other rights and obligations to gay and lesbian couples. In 2006, the New Jersey court unanimously decided that the unequal dispensation of rights and benefits to committed same-sex partners can no longer be tolerated under our state constitution. The New Jersey Civil Union Act gave non-male female couples all the marriage equivalent rights within the state, but the Federal Defense of Marriage Act kept same-sex partners from enjoying 1,138 rights married couples had under federal law. We're almost there. Those of us who are gay or trans are almost allowed to receive our God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I attended seminary during this time. Although Canada and some states allowed marriage, many Americans hated the idea with white-hot passion. During my ministerial internship, I took a risk and performed a marriage before God ceremony for 2 women in Louisiana, a ceremony with no legal standing. Soon after I moved up here to New Jersey. Being gay and a minister was an odd situation. I could guide a couple in their marriage vows, but could not save them myself. I was an instrument of society, but not fully a member of society. Working with other ministers around the area here, many were glad to ignore my sexual orientation, but kept their distance from me in public to avoid being stained by it. One Presbyterian minister here in Atlantic County was gay, but many more were dismissive of me and of him. This congregation was a haven, though in this area we had few allies. And then in September 2013, I heard the news. The NJ courts declared that because the federal rights were exclusive to married couples and New Jersey gay couples were civil unioned, they decreed, quote, under these circumstances, the current inequality visited upon same-sex civil union couples offends the New Jersey Constitution and is not compatible with a reasonable conception of basic human dignity. In New Jersey, marriage would become available to all couples in 30 days. This congregation discussed what we could do. And so we put out a press release that looked somewhat like this draft that I found in an old email. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Jersey Shore will be offering marriage ceremonies for domestic partnerships and civil union couples of any faith who wish to have their wedding vows solemnized by a ministry. The congregation will host ceremonies on Sunday, October 27th, beginning at 1 p.m. Reverend Charlie Dieterich explained, couples who are already domestically partnered or civilly unioned have already had the party, already exchanged the vows, and they have been married in all but name. The court has said that the delay in obtaining full marriage rights is a hardship, and we agree. We offer a simple religious wedding compatible with their beliefs to allow them to change their legal status. Quote, we are happy to do this for couples of all faiths or no faith at all. This is a social justice issue, and we are glad to offer this ceremony without cost, says Congregation President Karen York. The new forms for marriage were not only gay and lesbian friendly, but trans and queer friendly too. The terms husband and wife were replaced by applicant A and applicant B without gender specification. We were moving forward together. That first Sunday was not all glitter. Those who came here were tentative, even secretive. Couples came not with balloons and a dozen friends, but with 1 or 2. Sometimes without even the legally required 2 witnesses, which we provided. It made me cry to see how dangerous gay life was in New Jersey. We only married a few that day, but I did several more weddings in the months that followed. Yes, some were only attended by close friends, and those were beautiful. Others, however, included extended families, tuxedos, and a huge wedding cake. That was a joyful time. The end of a very long process. The Seven of Pentacles tarot card shows a farmer standing in the garden surrounded by a squash or pumpkin vine, bearing seven large fruits. In her poem, Marge Piercy writes, "Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses, live a life you can endure, make love that is loving, keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in." The story of Freedom to Marry Day is not over. Court challenges, violence, your work here remains and will always remain, making new connections, reaching out into your community in new ways, being visible. Nothing is settled. Everything matters. Remember that the LGBTQ movement is a coalition of 5 or more groups of people. Be sure that you work to welcome each of them, even the mermaids. Speak as one who has lived on the edge of decision, who could not indulge the passing dream of choice, on behalf of those of us who were imprinted with fear. Thank you. The UU congregation of the South Jersey Shore can be proud of its shining moment in the story of marriage for all. And may this congregation continue to flourish and grow in the years ahead. How will you celebrate Freedom to Marry Day on February 12th? Our closing hymn, number 346, is "Come Sing a Song." 346. Surprise you were willingly. tarot card, Seven of Pentacles, shows a farmer tending a squash farm. Reflecting on this, Marge Piercy writes, connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground.
You cannot always tell by looking what has happened.
More than half of a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet.
Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet.
Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree.
Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden.
Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar.
Weave real connections. Create real nodes. Build real houses.
Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving.
Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us, interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs.
Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen.
Reach out. Keep reaching out. Keep bringing in.
This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always.
For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. Let's read the words together for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame,
not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
This is a song written by Paul Brown. You may be down on your luck, or you might be feeling strong. You may think you made it, still shooting for that goal. You might be happy in love, you may be living on your own. Think you have the answers, but the question stays unknown. There's just one thing we all must know. Can't stop the rush of the years as they go. So make the best of what you've got, because life keeps moving on. You are young and foolish, but that's only for today. You may be old and wise now, stuck in your stubborn way. Look like an angel now, but someday they'll all fade. You've got the strength of youth, time steals it all away. There's just one thing we all must know. You can't stop the rush of the years as they go. So make the best of what you've got, because life keeps moving want the best in life, and we struggle to achieve that. Must be a better way. Oh man, I do believe that. I'd be better off just to live in my own pace. 'Cause life keeps moving on, but man, it's really not a race. Feel good about your life and the things that you have made. Hold the good times close, put those bad ones away. Tell the ones you love, let them know how you feel. Listen to that different story, every line has to repeat. There's just one thing we all must know. You can't stop the rush of the years as they go. So make the best of what you've got, because life keeps moving on. Life keeps moving on. Life keeps moving on. Yes, life keeps moving on. So make the best of what you've got, because life keeps moving on.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Allison. Katie, thank you, Paul, for that great song. Jack Nemes and associates wish to take a moment for one more tune, most appropriate song for today. Jack, you want to lead us? Denise. Oh, Denise is
Did everybody know the Eagles fight song?
Fly, eagles, fly, on road to victory. Fly, eagles, fly, for a touchdown, 1, 2, 3. Hit 'em low, hit 'em high, gonna watch those eagles fly. Fly, eagles, fly, on road to victory. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
We warmly welcome all of you who are visiting today and hope that you will come back. Now let us share in a moment of silent reflection to consider today's message and the meaning it has in our lives.
Now, who else in the church would use it?